Hello again from Firefly Ministry. Recently, Kim and I had the opportunity to take a follow-up trip to one that we had made 2 years earlier. Now, while the destination may initially sound exotic, I assure you that pleasure and leisure were no part of our planning. I'll talk to you more about that later, however. But first, I'd like to focus on something that happened on the plane ride on the return flight home. Now, if you've ever flown, I'm sure you're familiar with the various pre-boarding and in-flight announcements, such as the one that the flight attendant sometimes makes while taxiing to take off.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome aboard Flight 8682 with service from Paris to Atlanta. We're currently third in line for takeoff and are expected to be in the air in approximately 7 minutes. We ask that you please fasten your seatbelts and secure all baggage underneath your seat or in the overhead compartments. We also ask that your seat and tray table be upright and locked for takeoff. Please turn off all personal electronic devices, including laptops and cell phones. Smoking is prohibited for the duration of the flight. Thank you for choosing Delta Airlines. Enjoy your flight.
After we had been in the air for about 20 minutes, the captain added his welcome to that of the flight attendant.
Good afternoon. This is Captain Harris speaking. First, I'd like to welcome everyone aboard Delta Airlines Flight 8682 to Atlanta. We are currently cruising at an altitude of 33,000 feet and an airspeed of 400 miles per hour. The time is 1:25 p.m. For the most part, the weather looks good for our flight. With the tailwind on our side, we expect to land in Atlanta approximately 30 minutes ahead of schedule. In reviewing our flight plan, I'm pleased to report that our flight should proceed without any hitches.
But it was something that he mentioned towards the end of his announcement that particularly caught my attention.
However, as we near Atlanta, we will experience some turbulence. I'll come back on before we get there. The cabin crew will be coming shortly with our regular service. I'll let you know if anything changes before we reach our destination. Until then, sit back, relax, and enjoy the rest of the flight.
As we near Atlanta, we will experience some turbulence. Now, I assure you, that's not exactly what Kim and I wanted to hear, but we did appreciate the heads up, and you do know how dependable weather forecasts are sometimes. Now, Kim and I quickly dismissed his warning and passed the time in flight by reading and, of course, catching up on some much-needed sleep and indulging in a few delicious snacks. It was about 9 hours later that the captain returned with an update sharing a mix of good news, bad news, and then even better news. His announcement came about the time we began to experience some quick bumps of turbulence. You know, the ones that resemble the potholes on my way home each evening from work.
This is your captain speaking, and I'm pleased to inform you that we will be landing in Atlanta shortly. Like I said earlier, we will experience some turbulence on the way down. So, for your safety, please return to your seats and fasten your seatbelts. Our wonderful flight attendants will be coming through the cabin to assist you with anything you may need. Just a little longer and we'll be on the ground. Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you on the ground soon.
Good news, bad news, even better news. The good news, we're almost home. The bad news, it's going to be a rough ride in. And now the even better news, he'll see us on the ground soon. Now that I've had some time to think about that flight, an incident between Jesus and his disciples comes to mind. It's a moment when Christ needed to inform the disciples about things that they would soon experience. To all of them at the time, it could only be understood as bad news. It begins in chapter 13 of the book of John and continues throughout the book. But I'm primarily interested in the chapters 13 and 14. The setting for John 13, it's the Last Supper. This chapter marks the beginning of Jesus' preparation for his upcoming departure. We'll begin the story with verse 1.
Now before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour had come that he should depart from this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end.
Now, just as a side note here, notice how John says Jesus knew his hour had come. His hour had come. Now, I want you to think back of all the other instances that John relates earlier in this book where Jesus specifically says his time or his hour had not yet come. Let's take a look at John 2:4. It's during the wedding at Cana where his mother Mary told him that the wine had run out. Now, I want you to notice Jesus' response here.
Woman, what does this have to do with me? My hour has not yet come.
Now, despite this, he went on to perform his first recorded miracle, that of turning the water to wine. Now, he also expressed a similar idea in John 7:6, when his brothers urged him to reveal himself publicly. Here's his reply.
My time has not yet come, but your time is always here.
And then later in John 7:30, and again in 8:20, John tells us that no one seized him because his hour had not yet come. This indicates that Jesus thoroughly understood the prophecy of Daniel 9.
Know therefore and understand that from the going forth of the command to restore and build Jerusalem until Messiah the Prince, there shall be 7 weeks and 62 weeks. The street shall be built again, and the wall, even in troublesome times.
And now notice verse 26. This tells us why Jesus knew his time had now come.
And after the 62 weeks Messiah shall be cut off, but not for himself. Then he shall confirm a covenant with many for 1 week. But in the middle of the week he shall bring an end to sacrifice and offering.
Jesus knew the time for the Messiah to be cut off, the time of his death. It had been predicted in the prophecy of Daniel chapter 9, and it was now. And because of his love for his disciples, he wanted to prepare them for the bumpy ride that was ahead. After washing their feet, he then made several predictions of events involving each one of them over the next few days. He began by foreshadowing Judas's betrayal in the Garden of Gethsemane. Jesus then told the disciples that they would all leave him and he would be alone after the betrayal. He then told Simon Peter that he would deny him 3 times before the rooster crowed. So, why did Jesus tell all of this to disciples? Was he attempting to shame them or to make them feel bad? No. Jesus tells us why in verse 19. He just had given them the bad news, and now the good news. He told them,
Now I tell you before it comes, that when it does come to pass, you may believe that I am he.
when everything he warned them about occurred, they would most likely feel vulnerable, defeated, or even worthless. But that's when they could remember and believe. And now the even better news. We find that in the first 4 verses of the next chapter. Now these verses are probably one of 2 sets of my favorite verses in the Bible.
Let not your heart be troubled. You believe in God, believe also in me. In my Father's house are many mansions. If it were not so, I would have told you. I go to prepare a place for you. And if I go and prepare a place for you, I will come again and receive you to myself, that where I am, there you may be also.
Wow, that's good news. The New Living Translation puts verse 4 like this: You know where I'm going, and you know how to get there. That's kind of like the last thing that Pilate told us before landing. Remember when he said,
Thank you for joining us today, and we'll see you on the ground soon.
and we'll see you on the ground soon. And from total discouragement to you know where I am, and I'll see you there. And later in John 14:29, he told his disciples,
And where I go, you know, and the way you know.
so why does God use prophecy? Now, we might find prophecy intriguing for its insights into the past and in the future. However, that's not the reason God provided it. Prophecy isn't intended to be sensational or fascinating, but rather it's to do three things. It's for us to learn to know Him. It's to teach us to trust Him. And it's to prepare us for the future. The more we understand how God has faithfully guided His people and provided for His people in the past, the more confident we can be on relying on Him for guidance and comfort during those turbulent times that are ahead. It was in October of 2023 when Kim and I met in Europe with about 50 other strangers on a tour. The tour was conducted by Dr. Gerard Damsteed and his wife Laurel. Now, when Kim and I met him, he had recently retired from the Church History Department of Andrews University. Before the tour even began, we had to complete a 180-page study guide. It began in Rome, and over the next 13 days visited significant sites of Christian church history. The tour focused on the early Christian church, the Dark Ages, and the Protestant Reformation. Now, after covering some 1,700 miles, we concluded our trip in Paris, where we wrapped up with a study of the French Revolution. This encompassed the period addressed by the prophecies of Daniel 8, verses 9 through 14, and Revelation chapters 1 through 3. Joshua 4, 1 through 7 describes a significant moment in Israel's history when they crossed the Jordan River into the Promised Land. After the entire nation had finished crossing, God instructed Joshua to select 12 men, one from each tribe, to take 12 stones from the middle of the river where the priests stood with the Ark of the Covenant. These stones were then carried to the campsite and set up as a memorial.
Then Joshua called the 12 men whom he had appointed from the children of Israel, one man from every tribe. And Joshua said to them, Cross over before the ark of the Lord your God into the midst of the Jordan, and each one of you take up a stone on his shoulder, according to the number of the tribes of the children of Israel, that this may be a sign among you when your children ask in time to come, saying, What do these stones mean to you?
The memorial was intended to be a sign for future generations. When children asked about the meaning of the stones, they would be told how the waters of the Jordan were miraculously cut off before the Ark of the Covenant, allowing the Israelites to cross on dry land. The monument symbolized God's power and faithfulness in leading His people into the land that He had promised them. Through this act, God reminded Joshua to the importance of remembering the faithfulness to His people in the past. Now, on our recent trip, it allowed us to visit many of those monuments of Christian history, of the Protestant Reformation. We witnessed the stones of God's leading from the darkness into light and freedom. The more we learned, the more confident we became in trusting in God's guidance during those turbulent days. Several significant sites, places, and people and events on the tour stood out to us as important stones of remembrance. And we plan on sharing them with you over the next few videos. We will begin with a visit in Rome. While the visit will unquestionably include many familiar places, the emphasis will be on understanding how the political empire evolves into a church empire, and how persecution initiated by the Roman armies is intensified by the armies controlled by the church. As we start this short series, remember God is in charge. He has a plan, and He has told us many details about that plan, some of which may cause some to become afraid and some to become scared. But don't be afraid. In Luke 12, verses 6 and 7, Jesus assures us,
Are not 5 sparrows sold for 2 pennies? Yet not one of them is forgotten by God. Indeed, the very hairs of your head are all numbered. Don't be afraid. You are worth more than many sparrows.
We hope you will join us next time as we continue our journey from Rome to the Revolution. The title of the next in the series, Foundations of Prophecy, Prophecy Overview. And until then, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice. Let your gentleness be made known to all men. The Lord is at hand. Be anxious for nothing, but in everything by prayer and supplication, with thanksgiving, let your requests be made known to God. And the peace of God, which surpasses all understanding, will guard your hearts and your minds through Christ Jesus. And until then, God give you a blessed week.